Hi, I'm Sarah from Cornwall Chamber.
And I'm Zoe, and this is the Cornwall Chamber Business Partner Podcasts. Today we're here with Helen Tite from I Move. Hi, Helen.
Hello.
Go on,
To go.
Sarah. Take it away.
Well, first of all, yeah, it's great that you've joined us. I think I can speak for Zoe and I that we are a bit of a fangirl of yours. So, it's amazing.
Cornwall, just saying.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So it's amazing to see you. We have been fortunate enough to have some training at the Chamber from yourself, but maybe some people aren't as familiar with you and what you do. So it'd be great to hear a little bit about I Move, kind of how you set everything up and what you do.
Okay, so I'm Helen Tite. I'm from I Move, and it's an organisation that I founded. Actually, we've rebranded and renamed multiple times, but truthfully, I've been an entrepreneur all my life. So it's just evolved over time. Where my specialism lies is exercise science and the human body, and we've got one body, we've got to look after it, whatever that looks like. So as I've evolved and grown older and more, I don't know, the wisdom is strong in me these days. But I would say that my niche is midlife and beyond. So what that looks like is that we can support businesses who are dealing with people in the workforce who are at probably the most hectic and stressful times of their lives. Midlife is a very, I'm not saying that any stage is a challenge, but midlife is particularly challenging for many. Many become chronically unwell. They still have to work. We're dealing with financial issues. And then we start dealing with dying relatives, managing younger families. That whole piece is exhausting and we make poor decisions. So part of our work is supporting businesses to support their people better. Sounds fluffy, sounds like Yoda on a hilltop. It's not. It is really paring it back and saying, you've got one body, how can we make improvements so you can improve productivity and performance? So that sounds like really structured. Every customer we have is different, has different needs. Every business practice has different needs. Their workforce is different. They might be female dominant. They might be all male, and they all have different needs. So what does that look like, and how can we make that better? The other part of what we do is older people. So when I say midlife and beyond, this is to the oldest old, which is, our war generations. And our job is to keep them from being readmitted into hospitals. So we keep them steady on their feet, and we help them re-engage in communities, stay active, stay independent, not go into care homes, not go into residential homes if we can help it, but empower them to still wash their hair on their own, still walk on the beach with their grandbabies and their great grandbabies, to help them get back out after they've fallen. And then should they fall, and when they fall, we help them with a method, if you like, to keep them steady on their feet and they don't fall and hurt themselves as bad, if that makes sense. So yes, there's a lot of science around our work, but we take the science and we make it relatable and livable so that all humans can thrive.
Amazing.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah, I love that. I think one thing that I love about you, and I think you're such a great example of, is you've created an organisation which obviously does amazing work for sort of health and well-being. You empower women and men, but I think part of that and why it works so well is because of you, like you personally, and the fact that you've created a brand built on who you are.
Yeah.
I think because you kind of obviously been through this yourself, and you've kind of come out the other side thriving. I feel like you've got an amazing zest for life. And I think when I've heard you speaking, you're an amazing public speaker, and you're so confident, and someone that I definitely would look up to and think, I'd love to be the way you are. And if you feel that way, it's amazing. But I guess not everyone does sort of find confidence so easy, and doesn't find public speaking so easy. So do you have any kind of top tips around confidence?
Okay, lots. So a little bit of history. I am a fitness professional, and I've presented fitness all around the world. So with that, you have to create a character and a persona.
Yeah.
So I promise you, I've been in tears 30 seconds before being on the stage, and I'm presenting to thousands of people teaching fitness. I'm going to forget the choreography. I'm going to get it wrong. I'm going to look terrible. I've gained weight, and all these thoughts, that inner narrative is kicking off, and I'm in tears, or something outside of my remit has gone wrong. So something something's happened in the business. I'm like, ah. So a hug and a punch normally is the first bit from one of my colleagues. So it's like, come on, woman up, come on. And it's kind of like, like Beyonce has her alter egos.
Yeah, Sasha
That's
Fierce.
and absolutely. And for, people who are introvert or fearful of talking publicly, create that persona. Like, it doesn't have to be you in that moment. Step into it, build that power, and pretend. And now, interestingly enough, I once wrote "Fake It Till You Make It," which creative people understand that concept a lot, but not all people. And it was deemed untrustworthy. It was like, that's not true. But sometimes you got to build on those characters to become that character.
Yeah.
So layer it in when it comes to especially public speaking. Think about some hints and tips that you can do that becomes habitual, that becomes part of the ritual, that then becomes part of your power and your essence, and then you've got it. And then, loads of people do that. Imagine they're all naked, or imagine they're all sat on the toilet. And do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be you. You can be this person that you visualize and work towards. So strong, empowered. You're the expert in the room. They've invited you to talk. These people are there to listen. So in that moment, shine.
Yeah.
And I think to support that is, it doesn't have to just be you on your own. So if you are public speaking for the first time, have that little tribe around you who've got your back. Who are your cheerleaders. And will get you to that point of, she's got it. She's on a roll. Let's let her go.
I love that. I think your passion really is sort of evident for everyone as well. And I think whenever you're talking about something that you know loads about, that you've lived yourself, but also you really believe, that makes a huge difference. And I think you do kind of, that shines through so well all the time. So I guess that's kind of a huge help anyway.
Yeah, and I think so that there is a piece. I think in the early days, having businesses, failing businesses, there was a lot of shame that came with that. And then I started to understand that being honest and vulnerable about why things fail is okay. But for a long time, it was me holding that and talking about how failure, and I think I was raised that way. It's bad to fail. It's about perfection. It's like, actually, no, it's okay to fail. It's okay to break things. It's okay to do, minimal viable products. And if it works, great. Do better. If it doesn't work, it wasn't supposed to happen. So I think that piece is really important, and the lived experience that you keep chatting about. Yes, I think you realise that you're absolutely not alone in life, and I've been very honest about my mental health, and I did struggle severely with anxiety, social anxiety. And depression as a result of my health, and then you start talking about that to other people, and you realise that, oh my God,
you're not alone.
and then they reach out, and they're frightened because they're experiencing what you experienced, and they trust you because you are talking from a place of, I hear you, and I know how you feel. So, and I think there is a piece about being vulnerable in business where it's okay not to be okay. It's not always about mental health, but it's okay to, sometimes we don't know how this is going to work out, or this relationship's going to work out in business, and sometimes we just got to roll with it, and be honest that I am out of my comfort zone, but I'm going to learn, and I'm going to figure this out, and we're going to come out the end of this with some learning experience, good or bad. Mostly good, I'd like to say.
On top of that, what do you think, with those tips in mind, for somebody who's like my age, at our age, in our 30s, early 30s, what are your top tips for young people in business or just in life in general?
I think it's really hard. Now, I've got young daughters in their 20s. I think it's really hard for young women these days. And I listen to my daughters talk to me around relationships. The pandemic, I think, has made life really difficult, particularly for your generation. And around relationships and communication, and how do we talk to people? How do we form relationships, keep relationships? But when it comes to business, it's not that top level of networking. It's finding those real cobwebs of connectivity is really important. And I think, when you start to know people, you can build from there. Top tips for young women: don't be afraid. I think, women supporting women is the best thing we can do. I have encountered and genuinely encountered some really big horror stories of women just being spiteful and nasty and hurtful, and then it goes too far really quickly and escalates really quickly. And actually, what we should do is go, just stop, because confrontation and competition is not good. Collaboration, in spite of our relationships and our beliefs, we're actually stronger together as women, because quite frankly, it's not been done well, the world, for the last 2,000 years, in my opinion, in the patriarchal society. And that's another conversation that we'll have. But I do genuinely believe that sometimes us as women, we need to be responsible for our actions, and we need to put the brakes on and go, we must stop the bitching. We need to just cut in and go, I was an idiot. It went too far. I didn't mean for it to escalate. Actually, we're better together, and we can resolve this and move forward. And I have got frenemies. So historically, competition was deemed as really powerful for business and successful. Competition, good. But actually collaboration so much stronger and better. And that's really how I roll my business now. It's we're better in partnerships. And you'll find, things like funding, opportunities in business. It's not you as a sole person. It's you as an organisation with other organisations with other skill sets who actually together collectively have got the answer. In silo, not so strong. In a group where you've all got little things together that you pull together, makes it more powerful. Great. If you ever look into shine theory, that's it. It's women supporting women and shining the light on each other rather than stripping skin off their backs.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
If we talk about communication, I think another thing that you're just incredible at is mentioning the word vagina and making it.
I'm famous for that.
You are very good at it, but you just do it in a way where it's not kind of awkward. And I think
normalised.
Exactly. And I've seen you in a room with. I know that quite often the target, we really want to get male management there, but it can be quite difficult to get them there.
Yeah.
But I think that's not. I think sort of over the generations, it's been quite difficult because men have kind of shied away from that conversation because they feel uncomfortable. But I do think you're very good at kind of getting men to become involved in the sessions and actually speak. And quite often they can relate to so many things, whether that's kind of personal at home or there's going to be women in their lives. And I think from having these conversations with you and giving them information, that's going to help them kind of do better. And we only know what we know, so I think sometimes it's just having someone that's quite like a force of nature saying vagina in your face is actually a really positive thing.
Should we put this into context? So just for clarification for those that are watching, I have been known to randomly stand on stage and say vagina, but this is about biology.
Yes.
The conversation isn't about gender, it's about the aging body. And when we talk about anatomy, it is vagina and vulva. In its context, this is women's health, this is menopause. Pelvic health does play a big part of the whole female fertility journey. So the conversation is about breaking down those taboos. Yeah. So historically, our mums and our nans wouldn't talk about it. It was like, for those that are old enough to remember, it's the Les Dawson moment where the two old ladies, do you remember?
Yeah.
And they would mouth words to each other. Today we have to be more honest and open because our physical health has an impact on us 24 hours a day. And in the workplace, it has an impact. So we're still of that generation. So I genuinely believe in the next 20 years, this won't be a conversation. It will be commonplace. Like mental health is commonplace. We talk about breast checking. It's commonplace now, but we don't talk about vulval checking. And yet vulval cancer is a massive part of our future. And vulval health is really important for the entire journey, including menopause. And why we're talking about it in the workplace, a woman in a uniform feeling uncomfortable, too far away from the bathroom, has cycles or periods that are so long, it's affecting her work. She can't leave because she's flooding. She can't afford sanitary towels because she's on the living wage and she's supporting a family as a single parent. These are real stories that are happening to women, and They are dealing with shame, and managers, I kid you not, I hear it thousands of times, manager, I don't want to know, that's women's stuff, that's no. All of this stuff is still happening today in our modern world, with all, with so much going on around campaigning for women. And yet it's still commonplace. It is that, and you hate using phrases like gaslighting, and this is the feminist in me. It's the reality is that everybody was born from a woman. Yeah. Women are in our lives. Relationships are different. So there are women around us all the time, whether it's work colleagues or mothers or daughters or sisters. There are women in our lives, and it's important to understand what's going on. And I'm not taking it away from the men, because men's health is equally as important. But we can talk about that, and everyone's okay with men's health. We can't talk about women's health because it's still icky. Yeah. It's not icky. It's really important. So thank you for saying I'm trying to normalise it. We have great men that come to the conversation on this now, and interestingly enough, what often happens is it's the partners that will say, how can I support my wife, my partner better, because it will help me at work. And my husband did it. He turned down the temperature in his office because he recognised there was a woman who was clearly having a hot flush. And he wanted to help her prepare for her meeting so she didn't become overwhelmed. And he did all the right things. And he said, I just imagined if that was you sat there. Yeah. So, gave her time out, bit of water, cool down, adjusted the temperature in the office where she was going to give the presentation, and if they're cold, put on a jacket. She can't cool down. So it was small adjustments, so it's not difficult. It's and once you start having this conversation to open up about women's health, suddenly you see the change. And in one case, I went to an event, and it took probably 40 minutes to get to the table because of all these women that were saying, oh my God, my life's so different, because the company that I was working with had put in small changes, enough to transform the lives of these women who suddenly felt supported at work and weren't inclined to leave.
Yeah, exactly. Which is helping productivity anyway,
and
so it's kind of a no-brainer.
So talking about it at work, this isn't a turn off, oh my God, they're talking about women. This is turn up, because we're the future, and we're 52% of the population. And in addition to that, globally next year 13 billion women will be menopausal. That's a lot of anger that we need to look at. So we need to kind of be prepared for these angry women and see what we can do to support them better.
Absolutely. What would be some fitness tips? Because this is your biggest part of your work, for women who are our age, who want to prepare for the future, I guess.
Okay. Really good question. So in the old days, if you'd asked me, I would have gone 150 minutes of cardiovascular fitness, set up, heart rate. Right now, I'm different. So I would say move more and sit less. That's your starting point. In workplace, out of the desk, stand. So that would be the first bit. For a woman to prepare for the future, bone health is priority, I would say, to everyone, men and women alike. Lift the weights, do the own body weight training. But still, again, only 3% of the population are weightlifters or participate in weightlifting. And yet we know how crucial bone health is for life. So that's the first bit. I would suggest these days, something good for your bones, something good for your heart muscle, because it is a muscle. Yeah. So that would be your cardiovascular fitness, whether that's gentle and walking, or calm fitness, I like to think, or stressing the heart rate and doing interval training. So your CrossFit, end of the journey, if you like, something that's really going to bring up your breath, but then equally do something for your brain. So that one for me is, I'm a sea bobber. I'm not a great swimmer. It's kind of, I splash my face, and I'm not great at it. but it makes me feel incredible.
Yeah.
And being in the water, listening to the sound of the water around me, and being with ridiculous women who also don't care, it's wonderful. So something for your bones, something for your heart muscle, and definitely something for your brain. And that, I think that puts you in really good steady state for the future, because it just helps with your coping strategies.
So on that, I kind of am a big advocate of strength training as well,
Yes.
around bone density. And I think as someone that I've worked with the elderly previously, and I know that kind of if we talk about your recent contract for your falls prevention with Cornwall Council,
Yeah.
I think part of that, obviously, it's so sad when you see people that are mentally, thriving, and they're just, they're in their elderly stage of life, but they're, because they didn't have the knowledge back when kind of when they were our age, they didn't put the work in when they were younger, so their bone density is very weak, and so things like little falls that could literally be tripping over or shaking a pair of trousers outside could be enough for them to break a bone. So I think moving on to the falls prevention thing, it'd be great to hear a little bit about that and why it's so important.
It's I think again, when I work with older adults, one of their biggest regrets is not learning about this earlier. Why didn't I start it sooner? The knowledge wasn't there. We didn't know what we didn't know. So prevention is such a big part of just the UK PLC agenda now, ageing workforce in particular. That piece is so important, and not just the ageing workforce, but the piece when you retire. So you've spent your life slogging your guts out for what? So it's about that, ikigai is the Japanese equivalent. So that evolution into aging and not specifically retiring, but particularly the strength piece. Bones, particularly wrists, spine and pelvis, are your most vulnerable areas as you age. And it's not just about the weightlifting bone density. It is a combination of medication, genetics, stress, nutrition. All of these play part of it. And it could be so simple as a trip, stepping out of a greenhouse into the garden, a trip that then leaves you on the floor. It's 9 hours to get an ambulance, and by which point what we call a long lie. So if somebody is on the floor from a fall for over an hour, can result in organ failure and death. So it is that brutal. So falling feels like a bit bonkers, really, but actually it's 2.6 billion to the economy in the UK, in England, each year. Because, for an example, it's about £15,000 to have the surgery to repair the hip fracture. And that's just that bit, not the care in the hospital. And 7 days lying in a bed equates to adding 10 years onto your life, because your muscle mass changes, your bone density changes. So you come out of hospital looking weaker and more frail than when you went in. So it's a complex piece. So what we do is work with those that fear falling. So we've all got somebody that we know that doesn't go out anymore because they're scared. After the pandemic, most of the loos shut down. So thinking about, I can't go out because I need a wee. Or I can't go out because I'm worried about the cobbles, or I'm worried about parking because I don't want to pay extortionate fees in cupboards. So these things are real things to a lot of our older adults. So the fear of falling is one. The frequent fallers are another, and that could be something like Parkinson's, or somebody who is dealing with maybe recovering from brain tumour. It's so random, some of the reasons why they come to us. And then risk of falling. So somebody who may be on maybe 4 or 5 medicine tablets a day, that then puts them into a higher risk category of falling. For example, stress meds make you feel tired. So they'll take anti-anxiety meds at night, which makes them groggy and sleepy. Because they're older and haven't done pelvic floor training, they may wake to wee. They get up, they're drowsy, they trip and fall. And then they're not found until the following morning, long lie. So you can see how this works. So what we do, we follow this beautiful model where we work with these people for over 50 hours. And this is not new. This is something that we've been doing for over 10 years.
Okay.
And we take this person, Joan is our example. We take Joan, she joins us, she's frightened. We do some testing on her just to see how quickly she can rise from a chair, for example. And then can she turn? And if she turns, how many steps does that take? We talk about we understand her mental health, how confident she feels, and then we start this journey. So it's subtle. We follow, if you like, the fitness model. So we warm them up, then we do a balance piece, a heart piece, and then we start building blocks of movement together. And then about week 10, we don't tell them this at week 1, but about week 10, they're starting to get on the floor. And we're talking about Joan, who's 89, who says, you can get me on the floor, but you'll never get me off the floor. Again, I'd be a wealthy woman if I charged for every time I heard that. And then they do. They surprise themselves. And with that surprise comes joy, happy hormones, serotonin, dopamine. And then they come back, they tell Malcolm, they tell Brenda, they join, then it becomes a community, then they start carpooling.
Confident to go.
Oh my God, it's nuts. And the ripple effect is just joyous. It's not everyone's cup of tea working with older adults. But when you see that and you see that transformation, and then they tell you the stories of when they didn't fall, or they tell you the story of when they did fall and then they stopped everyone panicking around them and followed the model. Like, check in, everything's fine, turn onto your side, get onto your knees. Oh, hello, chair. Shuffle towards the chair. All the stuff that they probably wouldn't have done prior to the method. So with the Cornwall Council contract, which we're so excited to deliver, historically we've done this sort of piecemeal, a year plus 1 contract, or we'll run it as a pilot and we'll do it this way, we'll do it that way. Pandemic happened. We said we're going to try it digitally. Everyone, NHS, public health, everyone said it's never going to work digitally. And I love that when people throw these challenges at me as an entrepreneur. So I worked tirelessly with Pat. Pat has got the patience of a saint anyway, but took months to onboard these people. So older people, think about it. Pandemic, older people, what device are you on? Well, what's the device?
Yeah.
Click the link. What's a link? So it's really sort of paring it back, and we gifted all this IT to older generation. It's so outdated without chargers, so their update wouldn't talk to Zoom. So all of those things. So we rectified it, fixed it. And then, health and safety, how are we going to assure that these people aren't going to fall digitally, and what can we do? So we have a presenter at the front of the studio like this, and then we have another trainer behind the scenes looking at them in the class, and then we've got another person, eyes on, with a register going, right, we'll phone. And over the years, like for like, the evidence, because we still track the same movements, can she rise quicker? Can she turn with less step in, for example? How's the mental health? What's the stories? Side by side, we're getting the same outcomes. So with the digital version of falls prevention and the community version, we've pulled it all together. We're working with the voluntary sector. We're going to every wellbeing hub in Cornwall, and we're bringing people out of their homes, because there are many still stuck in their homes and haven't really got over the pandemic. So it's really exciting. And we opened the books 10 days ago, and we're looking for about 500 of this demographic. So it's quite a small demographic. We've got just close to 400 people already.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I love that.
So what that means is there's more. So
absolutely.
we will make it work. And that's the beauty of working with a business like mine, because now I will be agile. So we've got this great problem that we're probably going to oversubscribe. What we're going to do about it, how we're going to support them. So we've got a digital way of support. It's really exciting.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is, we're not only we employing more people, but we're training self-employed and small organisations to do what we do, so they can replicate and grow. So we don't want it all. We just want to use the love now and upskill a huge population to make a difference.
It's incredible, hey?
Yeah,
Yes.
big
Yeah, I
up
love
story.
it.
I love that.
I feel like we could talk about this all day.
Yeah, I know. I think
I'm like, tell me more.
yeah, exactly. I think you're super easy to talk to just because you've got so much interesting things to say.
Yeah.
I think just kind of one thing to think about before we finish is just in terms of getting you guys, and also we need to mention Pat as well, because as you mentioned, she is wonderful as well. But I think just getting you in front of people in an organisation and just the benefit of that. So I think if we think about life at the moment, for me, I feel like we are living in a real throwaway society, and that's kind of to do with people mainly. So it's almost like people seem to have a shelf life, get rid and then leave it. But I think what's so important is to realise that if you do go and deliver some training, it might be that somebody's, someone maybe our age or younger there, they might take their takeaway from that. Well, they'll go and speak to their mum and say, look, you don't have to struggle this way. There are things you can do. Or it could be, like you said before, it could be a husband or a partner, they could take that away. Or it could be a woman that's too embarrassed to say anything, but can speak to you at the end because you're so relatable. Or the falls prevention side. So I think in terms of just, and I'm not trying to be like a big plug here, but it is so important. And I think
what we've done, we've produced an empowerment collection.
Yeah.
And with that, we've got empowered aging, we've got empowered men, empowered mind, empowered women. So we've broken it down because with health and wellbeing, I've said Yoda already, but you can't boil an ocean, and health and wellbeing is so diverse and it's so random, and every business has different needs. I think the biggest challenge is finding organisations that have the budget, because to be honest, we're not set up to have a well-being budget. So, but this is training and education. This is upskilling the workforce to understand prevention and what that looks like to the business. So we've chunked it out. So we have this huge collection, and it's based on all the workshops we've taught over the years. We've just tidied it up and recognised that it's almost like a menu of different skills. And the example I often give, we're working with an engineering firm at the moment, 300 men, 6 of which have prostate cancer.
Oh, wow.
So we went there to talk about menopause, and they said, we need your help. Do you know anything? And it's like, well, actually, we've done loads of work with prostate cancer over the years. And this is the learning, and this is what it looks like in the workplace. And this is what we could all do to support these people better. So that's what we're doing. So we pivoted. We went, right, okay, let's talk about men's health. Then that became more of a wider thing about prostate checks. It's not just a thumb up the bum, which men fear, which is why a lot of them won't go and do the test. So it's having these open, normalising. It's simply the body getting older. Let's just not freak out a bit about it. Let's just do this calm and in a way that makes sense. So the empowerment collection is just like, let's have a cup of tea with me. Let me hear what you want, because I think one of the lessons is to provide a service that customers want, not what we think they need. And that's why we've chunked it up and broken it down, so they can pick and mix how they want it. And I think to support that, it's around, we can do it in a one-er. Your teams will hear it, but not embed it. So just to keep reinforcing, trickle in information about feeling well, really does start to, you see the change, and you see it because they tell us, the people tell us, and then the business go. One organisation we work with overseas, their productivity improved by 2.1%, and they absolutely contributed to that, to how we work with the middle managers, and empowered them around their stress and their sleep, because we actually set up this method for them, and got them all on board without scaring the bejesus out of them. They loved it, and they said that productivity improved, and there was a lot more joy. People gave up alcohol. It was random things that came out of it because we addressed one thing and we didn't boil the ocean, and we really narrowed it down to the company's needs.
I love that.
Incredible.
Yeah. Well, as you said, we could talk to you all day.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we can't. But thank you so much for joining us.
My
It's been
pleasure.
amazing to see you and speak to you as always.
Yeah,
and
you guys are
literally
great.
couldn't recommend Helen anymore.
Yeah.
There's a feedback we've had as well from our training sessions that you've delivered for us has been amazing. And I know, I've heard from people firsthand that you have sort of made a difference to them and their families, and
That's nice.
made people open up, and
empowering them to start conversations with, like you said, their families, but also going to their doctors themselves. Like, hey, this is what I've heard. This is what I've learned.
That's the important bit. I think, obviously we we charge for training. What goes on around that is much bigger, and if we can make a difference, it's because it's the right thing to do. So it's all those added values that make it so lovely. It's gorgeous.
It is.
I love it.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
It's been amazing.
Thank you so much, Helen.
Thank you.